Hello and welcome to the new podcast that I'll be bringing to you each and every week. This is Beyond the Boundary. My name's Josh. Hope you enjoy it. It's going to be plenty of fun. Let's get stuck straight into it. Let's talk about something different this week. The Melbourne Demons, they've sacked their coach Mark Neeld midweek, strangely after the bye where they didn't lose, and have instated Neil Craig as their coach for the rest of the season. Now, I'm not sure whether it was the right move to sack Mark Neeld mid-season. Just means the players have to adapt to a new game plan put in place by Neil Craig and really have to find their feet again, start all over again, which honestly wouldn't be a bad idea, but still I think they should have stuck out with Mark Neeld for the rest of the season and let him at least see out the year. Now, a few of you may have seen the post that I put up on the Melbourne Facebook page. I know a few of my followers saw it and liked the comment. If you didn't, I'll just reiterate what I said. When your list of players is not up to scratch, there's not much a coach can do. He can make 1,000 moves on game day and nothing will improve because the players are not executing the game plan. It's unfair on all the coaches in the league that cop the brutal force of what Neeld has had to go through because it's the players that aren't doing what he's asked of them. The lack of effort from the players is not Neeld's fault. There hasn't been one player that showed 1 ounce of emotion on the ground when they have been beaten. As good as Nathan Jones and Jeremy Howe have been this season, not even they have stood up to their teammates on the field and said, "Hey, this isn't good enough, let's pull our fingers out." You don't see any emotion from the players out on the field. It's almost like the Melbourne players are accepting that they're going to be beat comprehensively before the first bounce. Again, I don't think this is Neild's fault, as the poor recruiting before he got there saw all their picks from the last 4 years basically vanish. The majority left the club. The players that Neeld got to the club this season in Tumpus, Viney, Dean Kent, Matt Jones and Dean Turlick have all showed something already this season. Maybe trading in the likes of Tom Gillies, David Roden and Shannon Burns haven't been the best idea, but who isn't allowed to make a mistake in this life? Chris Dawes has been good since coming to the club, despite the limited opportunities that he has been given. Injuries haven't helped the Mark Neeld's progression either. Mitch Clark may never play again with his foot injury that he has. Jesse Hogan coming in next season will be one of the best things that happens to the Demons in a long, long time. Jack Viney will only get better. Jimmy Tumpus is a very good footballer. This side lacks so much on-field leadership it's not funny. Despite what the players at the club say that it was the right decision, it may have been the right decision for the future, but not now. Trengove and Grimes aren't ready for the captaincy. They are too young and don't have the support around them that the likes of Carey and Judd had at North and West Coast respectively when they were the same age. Personally, it was the wrong decision to sack Mark Neeld because now the players must adapt to that new game plan that I was talking about before. This was never, ever going to be a quick fix, and the players must take more responsibility. Now we go from the Demons to the Sydney Swans, and their newest recruit coming in this week after his 11-game suspension is former Adelaide Crow Kurt Tippett. Now, many may say that he's been overpaid and he's not worth the money that he's receiving from the Sydney Swans, but one of my favourite sayings is that you're worth what someone's willing to pay you. So the Sydney Swans are willing to pay Kurt Tippett around $900,000 a year, then so be it. He's going to come into this side and want to prove a point to the rest of the competition that he can make a statement for this club, that he can lead this club to another premiership, maybe even this season, and have a real say in this team's success. He's a powerful mark. He runs all day. He's very hard to stop in a one-on-one contest and very rarely gets beaten. His goal kicking's still a bit iffy, but he'll work on that as the year goes on, and I'm sure the Sydney Swans and their fans will enjoy seeing Kurt Tippett out there in the red and white and playing good football. Now, there's no doubt that Kurt Tippett will come into this side enjoying the likes of Josh Kennedy, Dan Hanbury, Jared McVeigh, Luke Parker, Ryan O'Keefe, and many, many more midfielders that the Sydney Swans have coming out of the centre square, kicking it down the throat of him, and him being able to have the opportunity to capitalise on the goal and have a real say on this team's success. The rising star for this week was Brisbane Lions' Sam Mayes. Now, he's had a terrific start to the year. He's cemented himself in their senior side. His game against the Fremantle Dockers, he picked up 25 disposals, 7 marks, 7 contested possessions, and 3 clearances. He's been really good for the Brisbane Lions this year. He's a promising player that the Lions need to stick with, which I'm sure they will, because Sam Mayes is a really terrific kid. He's a top player. He's going to be a top player for the rest of his career, which I think he is going to be one of the best pickups of last year's draft. He's got plenty of skills. He knows where he is. He has great awareness, great agility, great sense for where his teammates are. He can kick a goal or two, which is what you need with midfielders in these days. You need goal-kicking midfielders, and that's exactly what Sam Mayes is. Now we move on to the previews for round 13 of the season. Tonight it's Hawthorn v the West Coast Eagles. Now the Hawks, their changes are in comes Shane Savage, the specialist sub, and out goes Isaac Smith with a corked thigh. Now last week's win against the Blues was somewhat lucky, some might say. The Blues did get the rough end of the stick, but they also did cough up a lead, and the Hawks capitalised and put pressure on the Blues midway through the third quarter and pulled them back and managed to kick a winning score, ending up winning by 15 points in the end to take their record for the season to 10-1, the best of the year. Now, Buddy Franklin is on the verge of tearing the game apart. He kicked 4 goals last week. He was instrumental in their win. He wasn't at his best, but he still played his part by kicking those goals. So he is very, very close coming up against a not so strong West Coast defence. But Eric McKenzie, who will most likely go to him, does have a good record against him. So it'll be a tough challenge for Buddy. It'll be a tough challenge for McKenzie. So he'll go into this game feeling confident after last week, kicking those 4 goals. And he'll have a big say in this match if he kicks early goals and gives Hawthorn the momentum. Now, let's switch ends. Brian Lake, he had probably his best game for the Hawks last week. He took 8 marks for the Hawks in defence and really set up the play from the back line going forward. He reads the play so well. He did it for a decade at the Bulldogs, and the Hawks chased him for a reason. He's that solid backman that they need, and he knows where to run. He knows how to cut the players off. He knows how to read the play so well. Probably the best in the competition, I'd say. He's very underrated in terms of a defender. He gives Gibson and Stratton a bit of a chop out, and with Showmakers going down this season as well, he stepped up and really played that role that the Hawks need him to do. Now, the West Coast Eagles, they were probably lucky to get the win over the Saints. They didn't play their best football, it's fair to say, and they really struggled to get any run and fluency in their game 2 weeks ago against the Saints. Now, we saw last week with Carlton against the Hawks, they really run and gunned and took the game on. They got it in the hands of their quicker players, the likes of Betts and Garland, and really took the game on. And I think if the West Coast Eagles are to win this game, they need to get it in the hands of Andrew Gaff, who's had a very, very poor year. Bo Waters coming back into the side. He's another player that the Eagles have desperately missed this season. He's only played the 4 games. He's such a pivotal player in that back line, similar to what Brian Lake is for the Hawks. He reads the play so well. He's a massive inclusion. So's Darren Glass, the skipper. He missed the game against the Saints through injury. He'll come back into the side and give the West Coast defence much needed strength heading into this game, which is what they'll need. They need to somewhat limit the impact that the likes of Franklin, Roughhead, Gunston, and a little player by the name of Luke Bruce, who goes under the radar of many sides in the competition. So Glass coming into this side will give that backline heaps of strength and heaps of leadership. He's one of the best leaders in the competition. He was named All-Australian captain last year. He's certainly going to be an important inclusion to this game tonight. Now, the ins and outs for West Coast this week. In comes Patrick McGinnity, Mark Lacroix, Darren Glass, Beau Waters, Brad Dalziel and Josh Kennedy. Some handy inclusions there. Out goes Ashton Hams omitted, Brad Shepherd omitted, Jamie Cripps omitted, Josh Hill with a hamstring, Adam Selwood with a back, and Jacob Brennan also omitted. So the teams for tomorrow night from the full back line: Ben Stratton for Hawthorn, Brian Lake, Brent Guerra from the halfbacks, Grant Birchall, Josh Gibson, Luke Hodge. The centre line: Shane Savage, Sam Mitchell, Brad Hill. The half forward line: Paul Piopolo, Lance Franklin, Jordan Lewis. The full forward line: David Hale, Jared Ruffhead and Luke Bruce. The rucks: Max Bailey, Brad Sewell, Sean Burgoyne. The interchange: Liam Shields, Taylor Durea, Jack Gunston and Jonathan Simpkin. The emergencies are Kyle Cheney, Xavier Ellis and Matt Spanger. For the West Coast Eagles, from the back line: Sam Butler, Darren Glass, Mitch Brown. Halfbacks: Shannon Hearn, Eric McKenzie, Beau Waters. The centre line: Andrew Gaff, Scott Selwood, Andrew Embley. Half forwards: Luke Shuey, Josh Kennedy, Chris Maston. Full forwards: Mark Lacroix, Dean Cox, Jack Darling. The rucks: Nick Nui, Matt Prittis, Daniel Kerr. The bench: Blaine Wilson, who had a terrific first game last week, Patrick McGinnity, Brad Dalziel and Matt Rosa. The emergencies are Brad Shepherd, Ashley Smith and Jacob Brennan. It's going to be tough for the West Coast Eagles coming into this game. Coming to Etihad, a ground that they don't play at often. The Hawks, they much rather prefer to play at the MCG. But I think being in Melbourne and Hawthorn being the far better form side at the moment, that the Hawks may just be a little bit too strong in this match. I'm tipping the Hawks by a comfortable 27 points in this match. And I'm tipping Ruffy and Franklin may have another big night like they did last week when they kicked 8 goals between them. If West Coast are to win, they need the likes of Nick Nui, Josh Kennedy and Jack Darling, who's going to be an absolute star of the competition, to really fire, kick goals, set up their teammates and bring those teammates into the game. I also have concerns over the West Coast Eagles bringing so many former injured players into the game in all one game. The likes of Beau Waters, Josh Kennedy, I know he only missed last week, Mark Lacroix as well, but it's all about match fitness, and the Hawks, just with the one change, I think will be far too strong and run out this game by 27 points. Now, moving on to the game between the Port Adelaide Power and Sydney Swans. Now, this is an intriguing contest, mainly because of the inclusion of one Kurt Tippett for the Sydney Swans. He's going to bring a lot, as we spoke about earlier, he's going to bring a lot to this side. He's a tall forward that can take a grab, he's experienced, he's played in big games before. His best game last year was probably that preliminary final against the Hawks where he kicked 3 goals and really gave the Adelaide Crows a chance to progress into the next week. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out that way, but he still played a big part in them having a chance of getting through the grand final. How scary are the Sydney Swans? They just keep getting better and better. Their midfield of Luke Parker, Daniel Hanbury, Josh Kennedy, Jared McVeigh, Adam Goods, Ryan O'Keefe, Kieran Jack, throw in Tom Mitchell. They just get better and better as each week goes on. It really is scary. Mike Pike has been absolutely fantastic this year. He's stepped up. He's probably the number one ruckman at the club now. It's a massive achievement for not only him but the club as a whole. They've been able to develop this guy from Canada. He had a rugby background, didn't know how to kick a footy, and now he's one of the best contested marks in the game. He kicks a goal or two every game. He's very influential, and for mine, he's second behind Will Minson as the number one ruckman in the competition at the moment. So that's a massive achievement for him and the Sydney Swans. Let's jump over to Port Adelaide. They got the win they needed last week against the GWS. There were the demons in their head from last year when they got beaten quite comprehensively. It was the end of Matthew Primus's career as a coach, so they went there celebrating Kane Corns' record-breaking game where he himself had a terrific game, probably best on ground, gathering 34 touches and having a big say in the outcome, which was a 75-point win in favour of the Power. So it's going to be a very tough game for the Power. The Sydney Swans only travelled to AAMI Stadium a couple of weeks ago before their bye and put in the most scary performance of the year. Many people thought that the Adelaide Crows were a chance against the Sydney Swans, and Sydney came out and just buried them. They just buried them. So it's key for Port Adelaide to be competitive for 4 quarters and really have a crack, because anything can happen in this game. You get a bit of momentum throughout the game and you can carry on with that momentum for 4 quarters. So it's important that Port Adelaide don't get off to a lousy start and allow Sydney to kick away to an early 3 to 4 goal lead, because Sydney just won't give up that lead. So you can't help being beaten by the better side on the day, but you can help the effort that you put in to a game. So I think Port Adelaide are capable of taking Sydney all the way. I'm not saying they can beat them, but I think they are capable of taking them all the way. But it's going to be a very, very tough day for the Port Adelaide Football Club if they are going to somehow create an upset or even bring the best out of the Sydney Swans. So the ins and outs for this week: for Port Adelaide, in comes Jasper Pittard, who's missed the last 5 to 6 weeks with an injury, and former captain Dom Cassisi. A big out for the Port Adelaide Footy Club is Travis Boak, their captain, with a finger injury. He's going to miss next week against the mighty Magpies as well. And small forward Cameron Hitchcock with an ankle. For the Sydney Swans, in comes Jed Lamb, Tony Armstrong, and that man everyone's been talking about this week, Kurt Tippett. Out goes Andreas Effort with an Achilles. Brandon Jack, who was stiff, he's been omitted. He was very good last week when he came on as a sub. And Shane Mumford, who suffered a broken cheekbone in the hands of Jared Petrenko with that big bump 2 weeks ago at AAMI Stadium. So the teams, Port Adelaide, will start from the back line. Matthew Broadbent, Alapati Carlisle, Jack Hompsch, who's been very good since crossing from the GWS and taking that opportunity. Half back line, Cameron O'Shea, Tom Jonas, Tom Logan. Tom Jonas is a player that's put his hand up to take Kurt Tippett this week. He's had a fairly good year this year. He's a young kid. He's only going to get better. He's a key position defender. He's only going to get better with age. So it's really good to see that he's put his hand up to say, I want Kurt Tippett. Let me have him. It's good to see. From the centre line, Matt Thomas, Brad Ebert, who will be captaining the side this week. Kane Corns. From the half forwards, Robbie Gray, Justin Westhoff, Paul Stewart. Full forward line is Jake Need, Jay Schultz, Angus Montfries. From the rucks, we got Matthew Loby, Chad Wingard, who's having a sensational year. It's hard to believe it's only his second year. Hamish Hartlett, who's a bit frustrating for mine. He can be one of the best players in the competition when he runs and guns and gets the ball in his hand, but he's a very inconsistent player at the moment, and if he wants to become a better player than he is now, he needs that lift that consistency. On the bench, we've got Ollie Wines, Jasper Pittard, John Butcher, and Dom Cassisi. The emergencies are Nathan Blee, Andrew Moore, and Campbell Heath. The Sydney Swans, from the full back line, Tony Armstrong, Ted Richards, Dane Rampy. From the half back line, Nick Smith, Heath Grundy, Nick Malcheski. Centre line, Daniel Hanbury. I don't think we need to say much about him. He's been extraordinary this year, and he's going to be up there at the Brownlow at the end of the year, but it may not be the only medal that he wins. Josh Kennedy, Jared McVeigh. Half forward line, Luke Parker, Kurt Tippett, Craig Bird. From the full forward line, Jude Bolton, Adam Goods, and Ben McGlynn. The rucks, Mike Pike, Ryan O'Keefe, and Kieran Jack. The interchange, that man Tom Mitchell, who's had an outstanding 2 games. Jed Lamb, Jesse White, and Mitch Morton. The emergencies, Tim Membry, Brandon Jack, and Xavier Richards. So a few brothers of the players there. It's going to be, as I said, a very, very tough game for the Port Adelaide Football Club to win. They need to shut down the Sydney midfield and get on top of them early. I think early scoreboard pressure against the Sydney Swans is crucial if you're going to beat them. That if not, then they do it to you. So it is vital for the Port Adelaide side to kick goals early, get on the scoreboard, get a bit of momentum, get a bit of excitement around the group that will make them think that we can do this, we can beat the best side in the competition, which Sydney are at the moment. So I think Sydney are just going to be too good. They're just going to be too good. 43 points, I'm thinking. I think Port Adelaide will be in it at half-time, but Sydney's strength around the ground, they've got all areas covered in this game. So I think in the second half, the Sydney Swans may just pull away and kick a winning score and take this game out by 43 points. The next game we got is St Kilda versus the Demons, which all of a sudden, during the week, we wouldn't have thought this would be a big game, but all of a sudden, with recent events, Mark Neeld being sacked by the Demons, Neil Craig taking over, as we've already spoken about, and the Saints, I won't delve too much into that because it's a touchy subject. It's not much that I know about, so let's leave it at that. So the Saints, they had a tough loss against the West Coast Eagles a couple of weeks ago. They led for the majority of the game. They did cough up a lead, but probably were influenced by some touchy free kicks. I'm not one to blame the umpires, and I'm certainly not blaming the umpires for their loss, but it doesn't help at all. So the Saints, it's a big occasion for St Kilda. They've got 3 of their players playing milestone games, 3 key players that have played through their glory years. Nick Riewoldt, the skipper, is playing his 250th. Nick Dal Santo, who's also playing his 250th. And Sean Dempster, who's playing his 150th. He was an All-Australian last year. He's been sensational since crossing from the Sydney Swans, playing in that grand final in 2010, both grand finals. 2009, he was very, very good and an underrated player for mine. I like my underrated players, if you hadn't noticed. So I think the Saints have a lot to play for in this game. The Demons only sit a game below them on the ladder, and it is a danger game for the Saints, but there's a lot riding on the line in this match. You got your skipper, who's one of the best Saints to play all time, in my opinion. He runs all day long. He gives you a contest. On record, he runs 15, 16 kilometres a game, which is just amazing to think that he can put his body through that each and every week, and he's just so fit, and he has an impact on every game that he plays. So he's definitely in almost everyone's All-Australian lineup at the moment, in their mid-season All-Australian. He's just a phenomenal player, and congratulations to him on making 250 games. He's a terrific leader. He had that opportunity to win that premiership, and they just fell short with the draw, and then unfortunately in the replay got comprehensively beaten. So he's one of the players in the competition that deserves a premiership medal, but unfortunately I don't think he's going to end up getting it. He's in the twilight of his career, but he's certainly going the right way about it, playing some very good, very good football at the moment. Let's cross over to the Demons. Wow, what do we say about them? They had the bye last week, and after all the big losses that they've had, they've managed to stick by their coach, and all of a sudden the bye comes around, the 1 week they don't lose, and they sack their coach. So the decision was made last Friday to replace Mark Neeld with Neil Craig as an interim coach, and from all reports the training this week has been stepped up, but we heard that in the pre-season, and the performances that the Demons have put out this year has just not been up to standard. So I think the Demons, there's a lot of players in this group that need to really step up. It's time for them to step up as senior players. I'm looking at Colin Sylvia, David Roden, Shannon Burns. David Roden and Shannon Burns, both recruited to the club this season, need to step up and show that experience that they showed at their previous clubs that they haven't shown at the Demons this year. Aaron Davey, the real positive so far this season has been Chris Dawes' form. He's honestly been very, very good. You can say what you want about him. but he's come into this side and played some really good footy, and it's really good to see. Sammy Blees, he's got all the talent in the world. He goes back to the VFL and just dominates. I've seen him time and time again playing for Casey. He just runs and runs and runs, and when he gets that ball in the hand, he's not going to be caught because he's too quick. He's one of the quickest players in the competition, but when he comes into the AFL, he just doesn't bring that with him. So I think he needs to find a bit more consistency in his game. He's a very, very talented kid. He was taken with a priority pick a couple of years ago by the Demons, so he needs to start showing why the Demons chose him at that priority pick. So the ins and outs for this game. St Kilda have got some quite handy ins. Tom Simpkin, the young defender, comes in. Terry Malera, who kicked 5 goals last week for Sandringham. Justin Kajitsky comes back in. He's got 3 games to go to reach his 200. And Sam Fisher also comes back into the side. There's a little bit of doubt over Fisher with that toe injury, but the Saints are confident that he will play. The outs are Josh Saunders, Ahmed Saad and Stephen Milne, all omitted, and Bo Meister with that terrible hamstring, who may miss the rest of the year. For the Demons, in comes Dan Nicholson, Jake Spencer and Shannon Burns. And the young kid, the first gamer, Mitchell Clisby, who got elevated as a rookie yesterday. Out goes Michael Evans with a foot. He's going to miss 4 weeks. Mark Jamar with a toe injury. Jordy McKenzie with an elbow injury. The injuries are falling at the Demons. They've been absolutely riddled this year with injuries, and given their current state, it doesn't help. And Luke Tapscott has also been omitted. So let's go through the sides. The Saints, starting from the back line, Reece Stanley, James Gwilt, Dylan Robertson. What a season Dylan Robertson's had. He's been absolutely fantastic. The half-back line, Jaron Geary, Sam Fisher, Jack Nunes. The centre line, David Armitage, Sean Dempster, Terry Malera. Half-forward line, Nick Del Santo, Justin Kajitsky, Clinton Jones. The full-forward line, TDL, Trent Dennis-Lane, Nick Rewalt, Jack Stephen. The rucks, Big Boy McAvoy, as our friend BT likes to say, Farron Ray and Lee Montagna. The bench is Jimmy Webster, Tom Simpkin, Sam Donnell and Seb Ross. The emergencies are Aaron Sipos, Brodie Murdoch and Ahmed Saad. For the Demons, from the back line, Lyndon Dunn, Colin Garland, Dean Turlick. From the halfbacks, Tom McDonald, Cameron Pedersen, Mitch Clisby. Centre line, Jeremy Howe. He's had another fantastic year, pushing up the ground into the midfield, getting his hands on the ball. He's not just that high-flying player in the forward line. He's now a very good footballer that can find the ball, use it accordingly, and he gives some much needed strength in the Melbourne midfield. Skipper Jack Trengove, Matt Jones on a wing. The half-forward line is Aaron Davey, Chris Dawes and Sam Blees. The full-forward line is Shannon Burns, Colin Sylvia, David Roden. In the rucks is Jake Spencer, Jack Watts and Nathan Jones. The efforts Nathan Jones put in each and every week is just outstanding. If only the 21 other players on the ground with him can put in that same effort, then the Demons would be competitive each week. So the interchange, Dean Kent, Jack Fitzpatrick, Daniel Nicholson and Jimmy Tumpus. The emergencies, James Seller, Max Gorn and James Magna. These teams only sit 1 game away from each other. Melbourne are 17th, the Saints are 16th, but they are so far apart it's not funny. The Demons need to find their spark in the second half of the year. They've had their break. They need a refresh. They need to bounce back under a new coach. They need to show something for the new incoming coach in 2014, something that a coach can work with, that they can put in an effort each and every week and show some consistency each and every week. You cannot help being beaten by a side that is better than you if you put in an effort. But what you can help is putting that effort in and having a say on how much you get beaten by. This season, the Demons in games, I'll take you back to Essendon in round 2. They were competitive for the first 5 minutes. I was at the game and I thought, it's going to happen again here. They're going to beat us again. And then after 5 minutes, they stopped. And that's just not enough. So the Demons need to find that consistency and effort they show. They showed plenty of effort in the first half against Collingwood. They need to show that every week. So the Saints, they should win this game. They've got plenty to play for. They should win for their captain, who's been instrumental this year, leading from the front. Nick Gysen, who's been super all year. Nick Del Santo hasn't been at his best this season, but still been a terrific player over his 250 games at the Saints. And Sean Dempster as well, who, let's not forget, who's been a terrific player for the Saints since crossing from the Swans. So I think Melbourne can win, but I don't think they will. I think the Saints will just be a touch too strong and should run out this game by around 3 to 4 goals. I'll go 21 points. Moving on to the next game, it is the Western Bulldogs and Richmond at Etihad Stadium on Saturday night. This is going to be a terrific contest, I think. I think the Doggies showed a bit in the second half against Collingwood. I thought they were a bit too defensive in the first half, which cost them the game, really. They chipped around the back line, and it was almost like they were too scared to go forward and kick a goal, where they were more concerned about shutting down Collingwood and not allowing them to kick goals themselves. So I think that's what cost them the game early last week. Their second half was much better. They actually beat Collingwood in the second half and really changed the game after half-time. They changed their game style. They started running, started becoming more attacking, and I think that's what they got to do this week against Richmond if they're going to win this game. There's plenty of players in the Western Bulldogs side that can change a game with a click of the fingers. I'm looking at Ryan Griffin. He's been super, absolutely super this year. He's all Australian material. He's a terrific young, I won't say young, but he's not old either. He's in the prime of his career, and he's showing just the type of player he can be. He's very, very skillful. He runs, he's very, very quick, he breaks the lines, and he leads from the front. He gives the likes of Matthew Boyd and Rob Murphy that hand in leadership, and I struggle to find words for him because he's such a terrific player, and there's not a bad thing that I can say about him because he runs all day long and he gives that 110% effort that you ask from a player if you're a coach. So he'll continue that form going into this game, and I'm sure the Richmond side and the coaching staff will be looking at him and saying, we got to shut this man down. He's the player that's running all day long and giving the Dogs that drive that they need going forward. So for the Richmond side, they are flying at the moment, and let me just go on the record of saying the fans of the page, especially the Richmond fans, think that I have a problem with Richmond. I certainly don't. I like the Tigers a lot. I really, really do. I like the way they're going about it. They're playing very, very attacking football. Their defence has definitely improved, and they're one of the most exciting teams to watch in the competition, in my view, especially when the likes of Brett Delidio, Trent Cotchin, and even Jake the Push-Up King are playing really, really well. Dustin Martin, they've got a heap of good players in that side that they can build a side around to take them into the finals. I personally think that Richmond will play finals this year. They are winning games this year that they lost last year, which cost them in the end of playing in the finals last year. So they've got a very, very easy run over the next month, which personally I think they should win all 4 games. And if they continue to play their way they're playing their football at the moment, they're going to be a real danger side coming into the finals in September. And I tell you what, if you're playing Richmond in the finals, you'd want to be quick to get a ticket, because the Tiger Army will be lining up from Punt Road all the way to Federation Square and back again. I'm telling you that much right now. There'll be that many of them that have been dying to see their side in the finals yet again. So for Richmond, they should win this game. They should win it comfortably, but don't underestimate a young Bulldog side who will take the game on and take the positives out of last week against Collingwood again in the second half. And Richmond need to win this game to assert themselves, cement themselves in the top 8. They sit 7th at the moment. They cannot afford to drop a game where they are expected to win. So, Richmond, it's up to you. Your fate is in your hands. You can make the finals from here. It's only up to you. Let's go to the changes here. The Western Bulldogs, they've brought in Nathan Rovat and father-son recruit who was taken with pick 49, Lockie Hunter. I watched him in the VFL last week against my boys, the Essendon Footy Club, and I noticed him from the very, very start. He gathered 29 touches, he kicked 3 goals, he was quick, he brought his teammates into the play, and at pick 49, I reckon he's going to be a bit of a steal for the Western Bulldogs. He slipped right through, and he's going to be one exciting player for this young Western Bulldog side and their fans, and one to look for the next decade to come. So at the outs, Dylan Addison, who was omitted, and Kobe Stevens with a shoulder injury. It's a shame with Kobe Stevens. He's been great this year. He's come over from the Eagles, played some really good footy at the Dogs, and it's a shame that he's out with a shoulder. For Richmond, the first time in a long time, they have no change heading into this match. So the teams, let's go from the back line with the Dogs. We've got Brett Goods, Jordan Ruffhead, Jason Johannesson. Half back line, Dale Morris, Michael Talia, Rob Murphy. Centre line, Jackson McRae, Nick Lauer, and Adam Cooney. Half forwards, Daniel Gian Syracuse. Will he wear the green vest again? He says he enjoys it. I'm not sure many in the competition agree with him. Liam Jones and skipper Matthew Boyd on a flank. Full forward line is Luke Dalhouse, Lucas Markovic and Clay Smith. The rucks are Will Minson, who is easily the best ruckman in the competition at the moment. He's got the most hit-outs in the comp and most hit-outs to advantage, so that surely states that he is the best in the competition, no matter what you say. Ryan Griffin and Tom Liberatore. Tom Liberatore has had a cracking year this year as well. He had that off-field incident, and he's come back and earned the respect that he needs from his teammates. The interchange, Liam Picken, Jake Stringer, Nathan Rovat and Lockie Hunter. The emergencies, Dylan Addison, Mitch Wallace and Jared Grant. For the full back line, Richmond, Stephen Morris, who's having a superb year. He's only in his second year as well and doesn't get the credit. He got my unsung hero during the week, and thoroughly deserved, I thought, because he's shut down almost everyone that he's played on this season. So he's either going to get probably Luke Dalhouse, maybe Clay Smith playing in that forward pocket role. So it's going to be a tough day for either one of those doggies to get away from Stevie Morris. Fullback, Alex Rance and Bashar Hooley. The half-back line, Chris Newman, Troy Chapman, Nick Veloston, or Flostone. How do you pronounce his name? I don't care how you pronounce his name. He's an absolute gun. Taking a pick 9 by the Tigers. He runs, he's tough, he's skillful, he knows where the goals are. He's going to be a player for the Richmond Footy Club for the next 15 years to come. The centre line, Sean Grigg, Trent Cotchin, Dan Jackson. Half forward line is Aaron Edwards, Shane Edwards, Jake King. Full forward line, Ty Vickery, Jack Rewalt and Dustin Martin. Martin has been superb this year, and I think that all comes down to Choco Williams. So it's important for Richmond and Martin's sake that Choco Williams doesn't take the Melbourne job, because he's turned Martin around. He's been his mentor. He's been the mentor that Dustin Martin needs. And it's paying dividends with the form that Martin's in at the moment. He kicked 4 last week in the win over the Crows and was a big player in the team's win. In the racks, we got Ivan Naric, Brett Delidio and Nathan Foley. On the bench, we got Matt White, Brandon Ellis, Reece Conker and David Asprey. The emergencies are Jake Batchelor, Matty D and Sam Lonigan. It's going to be tough for the Western Bulldogs. I think the Tigers are just playing too well at the moment. They're playing really confident footy at Richmond. They're using each other. They're hitting their targets, which is what they've struggled with over the years. Their run and gun out of defence is much, much better than what it has been over the last 3 or 4 years. And I think the Doggies are just going to be a bit too inexperienced for the Tigers in this match. Richmond will want to assert themselves in the 8 and cement themselves in that 6th or 7th position come the end of this round. And especially with that 3 easy games after this week, I think the Tigers need to win this game more than anyone in the competition. I think they've got the most to lose, Richmond. Their fate is in their own hands. So I think Richmond can win this game, and I think quite comfortably. Richmond, I reckon by about 40 to 50 points. I'll go 44 points. I think they'll just be far too strong in this game. Jack Whewell, he needs to hit the scoreboard, I feel. He's being a little too unselfish this year, which isn't a bad thing, but you're a full forward, Jack. Kick your goals. It's as simple as that. Tigers by 44 points. Now the next game we got is the Fremantle Football Club versus North Melbourne at Patterson Stadium on Sunday. Intriguing contest this. The Fremantle Dockers are one of the best sides in the competition this year, despite the amount of injuries that they have suffered during the course of the year. No Matthew Pavlich for most of the year. Definitely no Aaron Sandilands for most of the year. And Michael Walters, who was in splendid form, who comes back in this week before he injured his ankle 4 weeks ago, was also very, very good. But this Fremantle side just keeps finding a way to win. They've been super this year. They're the number 1 defensive side in the competition, which is where I think they can beat the North Melbourne Footy Club this week. But we'll go into that a bit later. A Fremantle side, it looks very, very strong all over the ground. You got Luke McFarlane from the back line, and straight down the spine you look at it, Michael Johnson, Ryan Crowley, Chris Mayne. They've all been super this year and played their part. So they're a very well balanced side and play for each other, which is crucial to winning premierships, I think. So for the Fremantle team, I think coming into this game, they will be red hot favourites. North Melbourne, their season's almost about shot. It's really a shame to see because they only have themselves to blame. They lost 4 games by under a goal when leading by comfortable margins during the course of the match. So their last game against the Gold Coast, they would have had a real hard look at themselves and thought, where's our season at? Can we still make the finals? Realistically, they can still make the finals. Will they? I don't think so. It's very, very hard to see them making it from here, but they still can. They still have a lot of promising players across the field and plenty of players that can lift the side and take them with momentum and possibly into the finals, but it's going to be a very, very tough challenge, especially coming up against the Dockers. North Melbourne, they like to score heavily. The Dockers, they like to limit the scoring, and there's a reason why they're the number 1 defensive side in the competition. So it's going to be interesting. One team's either going to get on top of the other, especially the Dockers. Their defensive pressure is some of the best in the competition, if not the best in the competition. North Melbourne, they've got some of the best forward pressure in the competition. I think they kick goals, they score heavily, they get it in the hands of Drew Petrie, Aaron Black, Lindsay Thomas. They all kick goals. It's their defensive end that really, really worries me in this game. Led by Scott Thompson, Nathan Grimer, and Spud Ferrito. It just really is concerning. Their defensive structure just doesn't weigh up against the more attacking side. So if they can fix that, then they're going to be a very, very good side. But it doesn't just happen overnight. So the Kangaroos need to fix that, work on it, and get it right if they are any chance of playing in September. So the teams this week, remember they're only squads at the moment. In for the Fremantle Dockers comes Michael Walters, Matthew Taberner, and Tom Sheridan. If Taberner plays, it'll be his first game. Let's make a mention of Tendai Mzungu as well, playing his 50th game of his career. North Melbourne, in comes Levi Greenwood, Liam Anthony, Brad McKenzie, Ben Jacobs, Luke Delaney. Few players in that group who may be on their last legs of the club. Levi Greenwood, Liam Anthony have both had their chances a number of times and haven't taken them, so they may look at this game as a career-defining game. Out goes Will Sierakowski, who's been omitted, and Scott McMahon with an ankle, who's been terrific for the North Melbourne Footy Club this year. The Fremantle side for this week against North Melbourne, the full-back line is Zach Dawson, Luke McFarlane, Lee Spur. Half-back line is Clancy Pearce, Michael Johnson and Gary Ibbotson. Ibbotson, what a star he's been this year. Ross Lyon has changed his role from the half-back line, and he's allowed him to give him that drive from the back line, which is really good to see. His skills are improving with each game he plays. Ibbotson, very well done. The centre line, Paul Duffield, Ryan Crowley, Tendai Mzungu. The half-forward line is Nathan Fyfe, who just gets better with each game. Chris Mayne, Stephen Hill. Full forward line is Hayden Ballantyne, Hayden Crozier, and Michael Walters. A very small forward line there. The followers are Zach Clark, David Mundy, and Michael Barlow. The interchanges from Alex Silvani, Nick Subin, Matthew Taberner, Matt DeBoer, Daniel Pearce, Tom Sheridan, and Jack Hanneth. For North Melbourne, the full back line is Lockie Hansen, Scott Thompson, who's been in terrific form this year, doesn't get the recognition he deserves. Aaron Mullett in a back pocket. Half back line is Taylor Hine, Nathan Grimer, Michael Ferrito. Centre line is Sam Gibson, Sean Hatley, Ben Cunnington. The half forward line, this is where these three players have to play very, very good games if North Melbourne are to win. Daniel Wells, Drew Petrie and Brent Harvey. The full forward line is Lindsay Thomas, Aaron Black, who's having a sensational year for a young kid. He just doesn't miss with a set shot. Lee Adams. The rucks are Todd Goldstein, skipper Andrew Swallow and Ryan Bastanak. The interchanges from Levi Greenwood, Liam Anthony, Sam Wright, Brad McKenzie, Jamie McMillan, Ben Jacobs and Luke Delaney. It's going to be tough for the north side, I think. Heading over to Patterson's is one of the more tough games in the competition at the moment. Fremantle just play that ground so well, so defensive, and they've only conceded the one game there this year, so I find it hard how they're going to beat the Fremantle Dockers there on Sunday. They're going to have to score early and limit Fremantle's scoring early if they're any chance to win. I think Fremantle sit in the box seat for the top four at the moment. If they keep winning, keep playing the way they are, then they're a massive chance for their first premiership in their short history. Fremantle should be too strong for North Melbourne in this game. I think Fremantle will run out by about 4 to 5 goals. I'm going 26 points for the Fremantle Dockers over North Melbourne. Final game this week is the Brisbane Lions versus Geelong on Sunday, twilight at the Gabba. This is going to be a very tough game for the Brisbane Lions, I feel. The Cats are absolutely flying at the moment. They're also 10-1 this season, with their only loss coming to Collingwood by a kick. It's very hard to see how the Brisbane Lions are going to be able to muster up something to beat the Geelong side this week. They've brought in some big names of their own. They've brought in Daniel Merritt and Brent Maloney and Jonathan Brown. The Cats have also brought in their big names, which we'll get to in a minute. But the Cats are just so strong all over the ground. They've got so many players that step up, like the likes of Stephen Motlop, Alan Christensen, Cam Guthrie, Billy Smets, Jackson Thurlow. They all step up. Throw Matty Stokes in there as well. They all step up when the senior players aren't playing their best, and they fly under the radar of so many sides. Mark Blixabs as well is another who didn't play last week, had a rest. He's been fantastic this season. So for the Brisbane Lions, they've got their own players that are playing some good footy as well, but I feel they don't have that depth that Geelong has. Not many teams do. They don't have that cover over the ground that I think can beat a side like Geelong. So I'm happy to be proven wrong, but it's definitely going to be a very tough day for the Brisbane Lions. Now Geelong, they just get better as they go along. When's this dominance going to end? It's scary. Many people thought that the Cats were going to fall off this year. Honestly, without any head wobble, no neck brace whatsoever, I predicted that the Geelong Cats would be in the top 4 this season, and at the moment they're looking like they'll finish in the top 2. They've got plenty of games left at Skilled Stadium and a very, very comfortable run home, so I cannot see why they would not finish in the top 2 and a home final, which gives them the upper edge heading deeper and deeper into September, and maybe, just maybe, that 4th premiership in such a short amount of time. So let's go to the teams. We got, for the Brisbane Lions, in comes James Polkinghorne, Daniel Merritt, Brent Maloney and Jonathan Brown. Out comes the big Irishman Noel McKeever, who's been omitted. Special mention goes to Ash McGrath, playing his 200th game. He's a very much a utility player. He can play anywhere on the ground, forward, midfield, defence. The only position he probably can't play is the ruck, so he's been a very good contributor over his 200 games and certainly deserves to reach that milestone. For the Cats, in comes Big H, the Harry Taylor. Taylor Hunt back from that shoulder injury he suffered in round 7 against the Bombers. Mark Blitzav, Josh Caddy and Stephen Motlop. Motlop's had a terrific season this year. Out goes the big ruckman Trent West with a back injury, and Mitch Brown has been omitted. So to the sides, from the full-back line for the Brisbane Lions, we've got Jed Adcock, Daniel Merritt, Justin Clark. The halfbacks, Daniel Rich, Joel Patfull, Brent Staker. The centre line, Sam Mays, Jack Rennan, Mitch Golby. Congratulations to Sam Mays during the week. We spoke about him earlier in the podcast. He's had a terrific season so far and a well-deserved round 12 NAB Rising Star. Half forward line is Tom Rockcliffe, Jordan Lyle, Dane Zorko. Full forward line is Ash McGrath, Jonathan Brown and Ryan Lester. The followers are Matty Leuenberger, who signed a new 2-year contract during the week, which is fantastic. For Brisbane, he was sorted out by a number of clubs, but stayed loyal with the Brisbane Lions, which is great to see. Simon Black, I could talk for an hour about that guy. He is just a star. Pierce Hanley. The interchange is James Polkinghorne, Andrew Rains, Rowan Buick, Brent Maloney, Ryan Harwood, Sam Doherty and Elliot Yeo. The full-back line for Geelong is Corey Enright, Tom Monaghan, Cam Guthrie. Half-back line is Joel Corey, Harry Taylor, Josh Hunt. The centre line, Andrew Mackey, Joel Selwood, James Kelly. Half-forwards, Mark Blixavs, James Podsiadley, Alan Christensen. Full-forward line is Mitch Duncan, Tom Hawkins and Stephen Motlop. The followers are Nathan Vardy, Steve Johnson, who's playing probably career best football at the moment, Jimmy Bartell, who's under a bit of a cloud with that jet lag, but the Cats are confident that he'll play. The interchange is from Jackson Thurlow, Taylor Hunt, Billy Smets, Jordan Murdoch, Josh Caddy, Jesse Stringer and Matthew Stokes. As I said from the start, I think it's going to be very, very hard for the Lions to win this match. I think the Cats will just be too strong all over the ground. They've got the strength in almost every area. And I think if the Brisbane Lions are going to beat the Geelong side anywhere, it's going to be in the midfield. As good as Geelong's midfield is, their clearances this season, Geelong is ranked 18th in the competition. So if Brisbane can win the ball early, get it in their forward line, kick a couple of goals, put pressure on the Cats, then maybe, just maybe, an upset might brew. But I think Geelong, in the end, will be too strong by about 5 to 6 goals. 34 points would be a reasonable margin that probably both clubs would be happy with, considering their ladder position. 34 points for me for the Cats. Well, that's it for the previews for this week of round 13. Now, I want to open up to you guys. I want to open up to the fans. Please send in your questions to me on my Twitter at jrickard1991. Send in your questions. I'll be happy to answer them during the week. I've got plenty of time for anyone who wants to come and have a chat with me on Twitter. I'm more than happy to have a friendly chat no matter what it's about. If it's about AFL, whatever, I'm happy to have a chat. So send in your questions and I'll be happy to answer them on here or on Twitter. So at the moment, that's it for this show, the podcast. It's been a cracking opening. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I certainly did. There's a link on your screen now to subscribe to the YouTube channel. So Please pass on the new Facebook page. Unfortunately, with recent circumstances of the last one, we want to build the numbers up, get the whole community back talking about the game we all love. It's been great. I'm Josh Rickard. I've had plenty of fun. I hope to hear from you during the week.
We're a great, great club, a club that no one loves because we don't exist at all. The Mighty Buy is our name, we're the greatest at this game, yet despite a lack of coaching staff, player list, facilities, buildings, or any kind of physical presence at all, we are still the greatest team.